Good morning and welcome to America's Web Radio. And we're about to get started into another David's Pick, and we have another very special guest on. Before we get started, though, we'll do what we always do, and that's to just take 1 minute for everyone, be you a veteran or just a citizen, and think about the folks that have gone before that are our brothers and sisters that have served in the military or been first responders or whatever the case. And we'll be back in just a moment with our special guest. Stay tuned. Thank you. Amen. So, with that being said, we also do one other thing, and my guest is sitting across the table from me, Steve Rogers. And Steve, I have a son that's in the Air Force, a major in the Air Force, so I don't really get a lot of information from him, but when I was in the Army, we always relied on a Jody to get us that last half a mile on the forced march or whatever it was. And I don't know if, I guess Air Force flew it. They didn't run it. But anyway, we do our Jodies.
Ain't no sense in going home. Ain't no sense in going home. Jody's got your girl and gone. Jody got your girl and gone. Ain't no sense in feeling blue. Ain't no sense in feeling blue. Jody got your sister too. Jody got your sister too. Sound off. 1, 2. Sound off. 3, 4. Break it on down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. Well, everybody remembers those, and everybody loves Jodies. So let's get on with David's pick. And Steve Rogers is a veteran, was in the Air Force. Steve, how are you this morning?
Doing fine, Mr. David. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and please, not Mr. David, just David's. That's all I need. And as in many cases, Rick White was the one, is the gentleman that introduced us, and Rick is the director of the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame. And if you'll hear about it 2 or 3 times during the program today. Rick is fantastic. Colonel Rick White, retired, and I'm sure he's as proud of his son as the rest of us are. His son is following in his footsteps and has been deployed a number of times, and Graham did a great job at the induction ceremony the other day, and we didn't know each other then, so it was hard to plus I kept having besides being rather cool where it was at Johns Creek, and then the pollen, I felt like I'd been pollinated by the time I left there. But it was a great ceremony, and like Rick has always told me, bring your own box of Kleenex. And in fact, I want to mention along with that, we did a show, a veteran story yesterday with Pete Mecca, and Pete had a guest on that, there are some of these stories that you just can't help but be a little choked up on. And a lady Marine, her son followed in her footsteps, and he was in country in Nam for 1 week. And a few days later, the most dreaded thing a parent can have is the knock on the door. And so it was a very touching show yesterday. And Pete did a tremendous job on the show. And as always, we want to, like I said, salute Rick for the job that he does at the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame. Also mention the fact that Mike Mazzell does a heck of a job at the Healing Wall in Johns Creek at Newtown Park. And Mike is a retired lieutenant colonel and does like I said, a fantastic job. And if you're coming to Atlanta or you live in Atlanta and you're looking for something to do, the two places I certainly recommend is the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame in the Floyd Building right across the street from the state capitol, and then also coming out to Peachtree Corners as well as Johns Creek. All of them have they have heard the call and they've answered the call, just as many of our brothers and sisters have. Well, I say many. Actually, it gets down to it that I'm ashamed of our country in some ways that only 1% ever serve. And our country is too great not to have more people serving than that. But anyway, so let's talk about Steve and what you're doing, Steve, and the projects that you work on and the company that you have.
Well, I run a organization out of Warner Robins, Georgia called Servants Task Force, and what we do is we help veterans organizations that support and bring aid to our fellow veterans, and we support our first responders and children's organizations, mostly anybody that has a need that they need funds raised in order to meet their yearly goals, or a special need that goes directly to helping a family or a veteran or veterans. We will come up with project ideas, and then we will put them together, develop them, oversee them, and then we will give the funds at the end of the day to those that are in need.
That's fantastic. You know, it's been very interesting. I don't know how much older I am than you, but older, I'm sure. I'm older than most. Moses was a good friend. So, but as what I have seen and gone through, it's a fantastic turnaround of people thinking about veterans today, unlike what they thought of veterans coming back from Vietnam.
Absolutely.
And it warms my heart that people are looking at veterans and first responders. And by the way, I want to mention too that tomorrow is Friday, and everybody thinks, you know, TGIF, but we look at it like it's Red Shirt Friday, and we always wear our red shirts on Fridays in the studio. And what it means is that just our small way of showing respect to first responders. I've been very fortunate. I've been all three. I've been in the military. I've been a first responder, and I was an EMT many years ago, and never a fireman. Didn't care about those heights. I didn't like that at all. But at least in EMT, and now working with them with our radio station. So wear your red shirt tomorrow, and if you see a veteran or you know somebody that's wearing the I served on the USS or whatever it is, and or you happen to be a veteran, you can pick out another veteran in a crowd easy enough. It's always that haircut or something. There's just something about a veteran that makes them stand out. Or you see a military person in uniform, it'll make you feel much better than it does them, even if you just go over and buy them a meal, buy them a drink, whatever. If you're in the airport or wherever you happen to be and you see somebody, or there are 4 little words: thank you for your service. And that puts a smile on everybody's face, because a veteran is a veteran no matter how they served. And it's the biggest fraternity in the world, and that's an American veteran and somebody that served and raised their hand. And like Rick White always says, when you raise your hand, you're signing the check that you'll give your life for your country. And whether you go in country or not, I guess it really doesn't matter, but we all take the same oath at some point.
Right. We signed a check with our blood saying that we were willing to lay down our lives for our fellow Americans when called upon. And I think that with some of the shows and some of the movies that are being done today, if World War II was our greatest generation, our Vietnam veterans was a great generation. Most friends I have in the military are Vietnam veterans. And I was a teenager at the end of the Vietnam War. I didn't know a lot of the things that the veterans went through coming back home. Again, the media, they wrote a story that wasn't the story that should have been told. We had heroes like Tommy Clack, Dick Caluette, Rick White, Mike Roberts, all these guys that came back and then became great inspirational leaders and continued their work in supporting our veterans. In the Air Force, we call it a wingman. You never leave your wingman.
Well, what was your MOS in the Air Force?
Security Forces. I was security forces in the Army and the Air Force. And then I was a hydraulic mechanic my first 4 years. And then I served as a military police and security forces the rest of my career. And it was just, there's a bond. We talked about it with the Georgia football players at Coach Dooley's induction ceremony at the Hall of Fame. The football players talk about being brothers and a family, and I said, but you'll never know a true family, a true meaning of the word brotherhood until you're in uniform with a person and you're in a foxhole in Iraq and you know that the person next to you would be willing to lay down their life for you and you'd be willing to lay down your life for them, and you may not have known them 3 months earlier.
They got your back.
They got your back.
They got your six, as they say, and there's a bond there that, and it even starts. And I kid about this every now and then, but I bet it happens to anybody that served. And it's been a long, long time since I've been in. Fort Ord hadn't missed me at all, I'm sure, but every now and then I'll be doing something or not doing something and think about, well, okay, I understand. When you're going through basic or AIT, whatever, and you say, why in the world are we doing this? This is about as stupid as we can get. And then here it is 50 years later, I'll think about doing something and think, now I know why we did it. And there is a reason and a purpose for everything in the military. They've been practicing it for 200 and some odd years, so they ought to be getting it right, and they do. And there's, it's every branch that I know of anyway, the first thing you do when you go through reception is get a haircut, and everybody comes out with the same bald head looking, and the humility, they knock you down to size just to build you back up. And they do a wonderful job of it. And we always, if a teenager is listening and he or she's graduating from high school or college graduate, or a parent is listening or whatever, please take a look at the military. There is some branch that has a career opportunity for you. You may not even know it, but you like doing this, so find the branch that has that, and you will be one step ahead of anybody else. When you get out of the military, you'll be one step ahead of anybody else applying for the same job, because HRs love people that have served, because they know they're a leader, they know they can take orders, and they know that they can give orders.
Integrity, character, accountability, the things that we learned when we went through boot camp, through our military training, those are the things that people look for, or they should be looking for. in businesses. We have a great JROTC program in the state of Georgia. We have many schools around the state that have JROTC programs.
That's for you that don't know what JROTC. It's junior ROTC, just like you have the college ROTC. I think it even starts in what we used to call junior high, but over here they call it middle school.
Right.
And then can go on up through high school and then
Into college.
Into college,
Yeah, and if you were at the Hall of Fame ceremony a couple of weeks ago, those young men and women who performed and served during that ceremony, it just gave you a greater sense of pride, because with everything that's going on in the world today, and you know the troubles that we have here at home and abroad, we kind of lose sight of what we do have, and we have young men and women out there that are going to be tomorrow's leaders. They're going to be the people that set the gold standard, and I believe that they are the ones that will be going through these military programs in high school and college. And so one of our projects that we are setting our sights on is raising money to help with scholarship funding for students that graduate Georgia high schools and then go to Georgia colleges and then enlist into the military. We're doing that in Coach Dooley's honor. We're starting the scholarship fund in his name and his honor, and then we are going to use our first project, which is high school students and teachers, and competition and fun events to help organizations like Warrior to Citizen that go out and help our veterans with stress situations, PTSD, and needs that can be helped if we support them and give back to our fellow veterans like they did for us when they served before us.
Steve, we're going to take our first break. We'll be back. You're talking about Rocky Bleier, and here's Rocky.
Hi, this is Rocky Bleier, former four-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Vietnam veteran. As a board member, I'd like to talk to you about Warriors to Citizen, a nonprofit organization that helps American heroes, soldiers, police, fire, EMT, and their families recover from the psychological harm caused by career-induced stress. Over the last 20 years, broken relationships have been a major causal factor for the highest documented divorce rate and resulting suicides in this population. This program, From Warriors to Citizen, is delivered free to families by professionals, all whom served in uniform and understand the needs to be addressed. I ask for your support, so please go to our website, warriorstocitizen.org, and find out how you can help, either by making a donation or sharing this information with an American hero that you may know. And thank you.
If you live to serve and want to make an even bigger difference, consider joining the U.S. Army. With training in fields like medical care, linguistics, and engineering, an Army career can amplify your efforts with humanitarian opportunities all over the world. Plus, you'll receive competitive pay and incredible benefits, so you'll be taken care of, too. Learn more at GoArmy.com.
This is America's Web Radio. Would you like to have a show, talk about your business, or express your opinion on America's Web Radio? Just email gm@americaswebradio.com and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
And we're certainly glad to have you listening in today. And our guest today is Steve Rogers with a very unique business and helping military and first responders. And you never think about it, but there's always somebody in the background, and you're sort of in the front ground and background, Steve, and certainly respect what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that. We enjoy the fruits of our labor of helping veterans and first responders. And there's so many organizations out there, statewide, nationally, and everybody is trying to do what they see as important to helping veterans or first responders. And then if you drive up 75, which I did this morning coming to Atlanta, you see the vehicles with the retired veteran tags on them, or the USMC stickers, or the Army stickers, or the Navy, or the Air Force. And it lets you know that the state of Georgia, we are 9th in the nation in veterans. We have over 600,000 veterans in the state of Georgia. We have some of the strongest military bases in the state of Georgia. One that I work at, Robins Air Force Base down in Warner Robins, Fort Benning, where I did my jumps when I was in the Army, Fort Stewart, where I spent many a sleepless night in the jungles preparing for overseas duty. You go into stores, you see people wearing retired veterans hats or shirts. There are veterans everywhere, and if we can use that platform of our veterans and our first responders to build on, to bring together the organizations that are out there doing good and find ways to support each other and help each other, we would build an army or a military strong enough to be able to accomplish anything. There's nothing stronger than America's military, and America's military is made up of the men and women that serve in it and those that support it, the family members, the friends. They never forget. The people that I lived around when I went into military service, when I came home, they were always the first to stick their hand across the fence. Thank you for your service. What can we do to help you? The military is strong, and I came in when Reagan became president, and I can tell you the first 4 years I served, with everything that happened, every time something bad happened, it seemed like the military got stronger and we got more entrenched in what our thought process was for defending our nation and being willing to do whatever was asked of us to keep those freedoms strong. As politics go up and down, we have good years and we have bad years, but we should never ever forget the service and sacrifice of our veterans, those that were willing to lay down their lives for our freedoms. And there should never be a homeless or helpless veteran in the United States.
1 out of 4 homeless on the streets of Atlanta or every place else is a veteran, and like you said, that's a disgrace. And whatever we can do, we should do it to help them. The other thing is that we really trying more. A couple of things. One is that when a person deploys, so does his family. And they may not be going in country with their spouse or with family or whatever, but they're taking up a role that person that has deployed had been filling. And so we always salute the wives that are left behind or the children that are left behind, and bless and pray for those that have been deployed. We also there are a couple of other areas that we always mention on the show, is that dust-off pilots have to have been like you were saying, the great and the greater, and that's the dust-off pilot from Vietnam, and the nurses that a lot of times snuck on the dust-off to fly and support the wounded, and we have all the respect in the world for them. They had a mission to serve, and they did it above and beyond. Oh, and one other thing, and we do it with every veteran that comes in, but so far, no matter how old that veteran was or is, I always ask, if the country called, would you do it again?
Absolutely. I would leave right now the studio if I got called to go and defend my nation. I would go and do whatever I could for as long as I could.
That's yeah. I'd push my walker any place, you know. But and I think that's something that really scares the heck out of our enemies, knowing that we have such a wonderful veteran society that that they all love their country. The other thing, the other hardball question that I always ask whoever's sitting across the table or on the phone with me during these interviews is, and you're a member of a number of service organizations, if you're with 5 or 6 veterans, or any time you've been around veterans, can you name one veteran that can only tell one story?
No.
They get cranked up and those stories keep coming, and I love them. And we mentioned the fact too that every veteran today is a history book, because our history books are not our history books anymore,
Right.
in many schools. And every veteran should take his kids or his grandkids or the next door neighbor kids, put them on your lap and tell them about what you did in the military, because that's the only way they're going to know what the flag means. That's the only way they're going to know the truth about why somebody raised their hand and joined whatever branch it was and what you did. So please listen to us and tell your story, because you are the history book.
Well, if you're old enough to remember 9/11, after 9/11, there's no recorded amount of numbers of veterans that went to the recruiting offices asking if they could serve again. I remember it as clear as yesterday. And I mean, we had guys that were ready to put on any uniform and go and fight for our country, because they were angry at what our enemies had tried to do to us. And so you never lose, once that blood flows through your veins and that pride is in your chest, and that brotherhood is burned into your soul, you never leave it until you leave this earth. And it is so important for us to be able to pass those stories down. And part of our projects, all the projects that we do, is we try to establish what we call a veterans village. And we have veterans come in, and we let the kids or the grown-ups come around and ask them questions, and they tell stories about their military service. And I think it's a form of therapy for some of the veterans to be able to share what they went through. And you talk about the great nurses of Vietnam, the chopper pilots. I was lucky enough to meet the family of the chopper pilot from the movie We Were Soldiers. I've met a lot of great heroes, but we have to think about the chaplains that served.
How about Paul Longrear?
Paul Longrear, yes. We have, if you ever go to a Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and I encourage everyone to go, or to the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Service that's held the end of March every year, teachers should be taking their history students. JROTC units should be going up there and supporting this, and speak to those veterans that still put on their uniforms or still have their berets and their jackets, and they go there and listen to them just talk, and you will walk away a better person. I guarantee it. You'll never regret a single moment that you spend with a veteran.
No, and they've all got a story.
Absolutely.
And they're wonderful stories, and it's hard to explain unless you've been there, done that. The camaraderie that's built, and I just, like I said earlier, I marvel at what our military has done over the years. And when the call went out our country answered, and the veterans answered, and our military has always answered, and they always will, because there's some kind of secret psychology that the military, I guess it's the command central or something, has over everybody. But they you know, when I got out from basic and AIT, I was so pumped. I'd never been that pumped in my life, I don't think. And you know, it does, like you said, 9/11. I was already too old, jokingly too old. I was past that, but the thought was there. Yeah, do you need a clerk typist again, or you know, I can still type. Maybe I can perform, but it's just something that the military can instill more things in a person than any organization I can imagine. And as I always mention too, I'm very proud of my son that's a major in the Air Force, and we graduated from different Texas schools. He went to Texas A&M and through the Corps and all of that, and I went to a little school up in North Texas called Texas Tech. But we got a lot of kidding going on while he was at Texas A&M, and now I'm so proud of him, and it's going to be interesting to see. They're going to have their first kid shortly, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does with his child and his son or daughter, whatever. And his wife went to Texas A&M as well, so it's all in their blood, I reckon. But anyway, what have you got some events coming up, Steve?
Well, right now we are engaging in the first steps of putting together the scholarship fund for the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame to give to the students, the JROTC students that go to Georgia colleges and then enlist in the military. So we're getting ready to launch a project to help raise funds for that. And then our project called Mind, Body, and Soul, which is a 3-level competition project involving knowledge, which is the mind, sports, which is the body, and entertainment, which is the soul. We're going to put together an initial project on that using high school students and teachers, and we're going to take that funding that we raise from it, and we're going to give it to the Warrior to Citizen program to help with the projects that you just heard Rocky Blair speak of. We have a lot of veteran, as a cop and a veteran and a military person that went to Katrina and went overseas and served. When they come home, especially if you've been shot at or had a mortar or a rocket attack on your base that you were at, you come home, you've got some stress. Whether you recognize it or deal with it, it's there. And it not only affects you, it affects your spouse or your children, and we have to ensure that we take care of those who took care of us. So these projects, these programs that these organizations are developing, that are one-on-one counseling sessions or group counseling sessions that bring help and support and aid to the veterans and their family members and those around them to get them back on track is very important. We see that as a very important need. And then we have a project that we want to work with a couple of new friends that we've made, retired veterans, retired military folks, concerning former college legends competing in sports events to help veteran organizations around the country with their needs to help support veterans. So we've got 2 or 3 projects right now that we're developing and working on. Mainly right now we're looking for sponsors. If we can find sponsors that would help us with the seed money to put the first couple of events on, then we can grow these from statewide projects to national projects. We believe we would even get 2 or 3 television stations interested in wanting to purchase the rights to show them, which would increase our revenues, which would increase the number of veterans and first responders and their families that we could help.
You know, all of what you're saying is great. We're going to have to take our second break, and we'll be back with Steve and more about what's going on right after this.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, join me, Roger B., every Tuesday at 1400 hours right here on America's Web Radio for the Locked and Loaded Show. We will talk about guns, weapons, ammo, gun accessories, prepping, and so much more. So be sure to join us every Tuesday at 1400 or 2 p.m. for Locked and Loaded on America's Web Radio.
Hi, this is Rocky Blair, former 4-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Vietnam veteran. As a board member, I'd like to talk to you about Warriors to Citizen, a nonprofit organization that helps American heroes, soldiers, police, fire, EMT, and their families recover from the psychological harm caused by career-induced stress. Over the last 20 years, broken relationships have been a major causal factor for the highest documented divorce rate and resulting suicides in this population. This program, From Warriors to Citizen, is delivered free to families by professionals, all whom served in uniform and understand the needs to be addressed. I ask for your support, so please go to our website, warriorstocitizen.org, and find out how you can help, either by making a donation or sharing this information with an American hero that you may know. And thank you.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And again, want to thank our friend Colonel Rick White. He's the director of the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta, right across the street from the Capitol building. And Rick is just fantastic. The job that he does, and also the support that he's giving us and David's pick on bringing guests to our table and introducing them to you. So we want to always shout out to Rick and Ann Paul Longrear, that also was a very important part of the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame. He's the one that really started it, and then Rick took over as the director of the Hall of Fame. And it's something to see. It's a great day project. Take your family down there. Take your own box of Kleenex, as Rick says. And also, they have a good little cafeteria in the basement, and you can just make it a whole day-long trip, and you will get more out of it than you can ever imagine as you read the stories of the different heroes that have come from Georgia. And there must be something in that it must be something in the peaches that we eat, and but it's wonderful. And this is something just like today, Steve, that I've been very blessed that almost without exception of anybody that we interview, I learn something, and you never can learn too much.
Correct.
And you want to thank you for your service, and there's always a different view, a different outlook, a different this or different that you learn from talking to somebody or listening to somebody. And we've got the greatest country in the world, and we have to protect it.
Absolutely, and we need to be able to depend on our political leaders. We need to be able to depend on our military leaders. We need to be able to depend on our civic leaders, our community leaders, and each other. We're all in this together. That's why we're the United States of America. And we can have differences with our religious or social or whatever beliefs, but at the end of the day, if we can learn to talk to each other and not at each other, then you have a productive conversation. We are allowing too few of a medium try to dictate the thoughts and the actions of most Americans, when everybody has a brain and everybody can know right from wrong, and we can work together. We've done it before. When this nation, every time this nation was faced with a crisis, we didn't tear apart. We came together, and it's time for us to again work together. And we've got great people in office. I know several of our state representatives and people that serve the state of Georgia that are good Christian, honest people. And when you say honest and politician in the same sentence, you wonder if the person saying it knows what they're talking about. But we do. And we've got people that are running for office that are clearly behind our veterans and first responders. I met a lady who's running for Lieutenant Governor, Jenny Seaver, and told her about the projects that we were trying to do. And she has already stepped up and asked how she could help and what she could do to promote what we are trying to get done by introductions or prayers or whatever she can do to do that. David Clark, Shaw Blackman. We've got really good people in those areas. We've got some of the best community people in the state. We've got some of the greatest military minds and people in the state of Georgia. Rick White, Mike Roberts. We're blessed. This state is blessed, and I believe that we can come together as a people and work together, and we can not only honor the life and legacy of those that have served before, but we can open doors and create new opportunities for those that will be serving next. And by doing that, we combine the old with the new, and the experience with the energy, and then we're able to accomplish great things.
And by the grace, we have been able to change one thing in Washington, D.C., and that's the Personnel Record Center that was closed for a year.
Right.
And it's my understanding that they are going to be reopening, and we have raised a stink about that, and that it was literally killing veterans that needed some of their records to get treatment for different service related situations. And we have another situation that's going to be coming up that certainly the records are going to be important, and that's the burn pits from the Middle East. And people are going to, it's going to be the Agent Orange of the Middle East.
Right.
And it would be a crime to wait 30, 40 years before Vietnam veterans got relief regarding Agent Orange. So when the protocol has to be there for the men and women coming back from the Middle East, that they get treatment and they get it paid for immediately, and none of the waiting around stuff. So that's coming, and it's already here actually. So keep that in mind. If we need to put pressure on our representatives to pass whatever bill to include that in the veterans benefits, we need to do it.
Absolutely. And veterans should always reach out and contact their congressmen, their state senators, their local representatives, their VAs, whoever they can get to find out what they need to do to get a hold of those records, and then ask for the help that they deserve, and then we will be there to back them up with projects. If there's anything extra that is needed, such as counseling or other things that can be provided, that we can help through raising funds through our projects, and then giving it to organizations that carry out the actual deeds. We want to let them know that we will never forget them, and we'll always be fighting for them and supporting them as long as we can.
Well, every veteran and every veteran's family should know and go to the service officer in many of these service organizations, be it the American Legion, VFW, whatever it happens to be. You've got their ear, and they will help you through all sorts of things in dealing with the VA, dealing with benefits that you're entitled to. So many veterans don't realize that when they were discharged, they were given a briefing of benefits, but sometimes the older we get, we forget, and the VA, or not really the VA, it's more the service organizations and their service officers that will. I know of situations where the service officer has literally gone to the VA with the veteran and helped them go through all the paperwork and the different requirements. But those service officers are very dedicated, and they know what they're talking about. They have to go to school to become a service officer.
Right.
And so use them. That's an order from an E5. But anyway, they're there for you, and yeah, that's their way of saying how much they appreciate what you did in your service, and it's and what Steve is doing in support of these organizations, helping them do their fundraising, and it's just, I guess I take pride in the fact that so many things have changed, and the veteran today is becoming recognized more and more, and is in a positive situation as opposed to a negative situation as it was during the return of our Vietnam veterans.
Right.
And America is the greatest country in the world, and our veterans are, and we should all take pride in, we got Memorial Day coming up shortly.
Right.
And everybody should have a flag out, and then we have July the 4th coming up after that. So hooray for the United States.
The greatest nation in the world, and the greatest people in the world, and that's what makes us great, and will continue to make us great as long as we have men and women that are willing to put on a uniform, whether it be Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard,
First responders,
police, firefighters, EMTs, our nurses, our doctors, our leaders of young men and women, our ROTC commanders, JROTC commanders, those that are still willing after they've served their country for 20, 30 or more years, they're still willing to get up each morning and go to work or go to a place where their experience, their knowledge, and their abilities still continue to make this a great nation. That's important. That's what we live for each and every day for.
Steve, let me ask you. I said I was going to limit it to one hardball, and one hardball question anyway, and that was if you could name one veteran that could only tell one story once you get them started. But the other question is, have you ever been in a situation that there was a color guard that you didn't get goosebumps?
No. No. If you hear a bagpipe person play Amazing Grace when we do our honoring of Vietnam veterans through the commemoration program that we do as Servants Task Force, we held a ceremony a couple of years ago at the Museum of Aviation, and it was the second largest event in the state at that time. That guy came out playing the bagpipes. It stopped everything. I had tears running down my face. It was hard for me to even continue the ceremony. But Saturday 2 weeks ago, when them students, the young men and women in those uniforms, polished, shine, I mean, just razor sharp, came marching out in step and presented those colors, and just had that look of pride on their face, and the ability that they showed. It gave me some confidence that we have got some folks coming along that will keep this country great.
No question. And I salute all there's two things. The support, I salute the young men and women that decide to join the military, but I also salute their family that has instilled the importance of our country and our flag, even though we've had some times that it's been beaten down, but it always comes back up. And
service and sacrifice.
Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, like I've said several times during the show today, we do live in the best country in the world, most beautiful in every way, most beautiful.
Absolutely.
And I think, I guess what I'm seeing, and it's been sort of a long time coming. I can remember the pride of pride of a young kid, 6-7 years old, and the love for the country, and everybody seemed to have it back then, and we lost it for a while, and now it's coming back again. And you can have the people taking their knees and doing this and doing that, but they're not going to take the country away from us. There are just too many people that have served, and there are too many people that love our country and realize what a great country it is. And they can kid themselves into thinking that they're going to change us, and they're trying their darndest right now, but they're not going to make it.
Well, the people that understand what the flag means, what it means to those of us who served, and what it means to the citizens of this nation who understand what it's like to live in the greatest nation in the world, they will stand and salute, just like we did when we were little kids. When we went into first grade, we always said the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mm-hmm.
That was important. They took prayer out of schools, but we didn't stop praying. And people that think that kneeling or trying to disrespect the flag during a sporting event or something like that is making headway. It's like someone looking for 15 minutes of fame. That's all they're looking for. And I don't. If that's what somebody needs to do, we can talk about it. But at the end of the day, when that national anthem plays, I'm going to stand up, place my hand over my heart. I'm going to bow my head in a moment of silence. And I think that if you love this country and you understand what was done in order for this to be the greatest country in the world, that you would do the same. If you've got a beef with this nation, whether it's the justice system or anything else, that's what we have laws for, and that's what we have venues for, where you can state your side, and we can talk to each other, and at the end of the day come out with a logical, united decision, and quit trying to bully or enforce our doctrine or our beliefs on someone else. I don't want it done to me, and I'm certainly not going to try to do it to anybody else. If you believe differently than I do, at the end of the life, none of us are going to get out of this alive. We're going to stand before God, and we'll answer to Him, and He's our final judge.
And don't you know He has a place for veterans?
Absolutely. I'm sure there's a special place in heaven for veterans.
But, it's... I want to invite anyone that would like to correspond with us. You can always email GM at America's Web Radio, and we take all of those emails very seriously. And if you want us to change something, we certainly take that into consideration. And if you have someone, like Rick White says, if you know a veteran or you have a family member that's a veteran and they served honorably and you feel like they would deserve to be in the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame, will contact Rick White at the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame and start the process of getting that person recognized for what they did, for their service to their country. And I don't think in Georgia there's probably no greater honor than to have your picture being hung in the Georgia Military Veterans Hall of Fame for what you did. And it doesn't necessarily have to be for valor. It can be for many other things. Service, and I believe there's one other thing that you can, valor, service, and I believe one other. But anyway, whatever it is, Rick can tell you, and you really need to do it, because if that person, friend, family, whatever, has served, and they did it honorably, and they did it for us, and they need to have the recognition by all of those yet to come. Steve, thank you for driving up from Warner Robins. That's a compliment. Thank you very much.
It's been my pleasure. And if anyone has a need, a veteran or first responder or organization, if you have a need that you'd like for us to help you with, you can contact me at my email, which is hotrod31014@hotmail.com, or just give me a call at 478-960-5838, and we'll be happy to help you any way we can.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
If you live to serve and want to make an even